Mark, how are you?
Hey Corey, how you doing? Now that we're officially recording, we can redo our intros.
Exactly.
What's going on, man?
I figured it'd be more fun to catch up on the recording versus previous. So
I
it's
guess if
been
it's
what?
not recorded, if it's not recorded, it didn't happen, right?
Exactly. So last time we spoke was probably about a month ago. I went on vacation down to Hilton Head for a couple weeks.
Uh,
Only played one round of golf. I think you were out golfing a little bit too. And we
Probably,
finally
yeah.
got together again to talk about something else. What's been going on with you for the last month?
Oh, geez, a lot of client work, working on different things. Seems like pace of business has picked up a little bit, but I'm just personally in fall swing, man.
How many e-commerce businesses do you work with? Because the reason I ask this question is I've seen, I don't know, a handful of companies, or I'm hearing like this is going to be the worst e-commerce year. With Facebook, like their advertising with the iOS down, you have all the supply chain issues. Are you seeing that on your side with any of your
Yeah, well,
clients?
I am, and it's interesting. I'm like, how do you define e-commerce? So, like right now, I can think of one that I'm working with. It's pure play e-commerce.
Yeah, most are multi-channel.
Yeah, I can't exactly say who it is, but it's a bed in a box retailer. So they sell exclusively online, and they're
Very competitive.
yeah, that's a whole different story. That's an interesting market that I'm learning all about. But the others, I mean, most product based companies have to have some sort of e-com component, right? And yeah, I mean, I'm not hearing right now doom and gloom in terms of straight up forecasting, but I am hearing all the leading indicators that you just mentioned, things like supply chain, not having product, like, I know anecdotally, outside of my clients, I'm freaking out, right? Like, I'm pre-ordering things. I need new snowboard boots, for example, and I just started. They're not
Time's
even in.
running out quickly.
Yeah, they're not even in stock yet, and I just started ordering. And by the way, I get pro deals on most things, and I'm paying retail for snowboard boots because like I'm worried that they're not going to have them and that supply is going to be really limited. So I bought like 3 or 4 pairs. I'll return some. They're not even available yet. They say shipping in November, right? And so that's my behavior. I'm just like trying to get ahead of it. My wife and I, we have a rental home in Michigan, and we need a new piece of furniture, a new sofa,
And that's
sectional.
by what, 4, 6 weeks out at
Some,
best?
some. We looked at one furniture place that we like here. There's a showroom in Denver called Room and Board. It said June.
Yeah, that's 10 months out, 8 months out. I can't do
Yeah,
the
yeah. So I
should be doing
think, yeah, I
math.
think absolutely people are feeling that. I think we're all going to feel it. I think, if anyone's watching this in the near future, do your holiday shopping now. Like, don't wait. Like, I think that, it's going to be a rush, and I think there's going to be short supplies, and I've seen it, right? And so you and I both track trends. I mean, one of the trends that like is just constantly every day in my news feed is supply chain.
Yeah.
Every day.
And I just started obviously in the last month, I think you saw I launched my service um, with Swaylytics that I'll be tracking two competitors for anyone that requests. And so now I'm open. I have all these new brands that I'm starting to take a look at, and I'm seeing that common thread across all the brands that supply chain is tight for everyone. It's equally affecting people. I mean, I just personally, I've been waiting for a golf shaft. My 8 iron is slightly bent, and I've been waiting since June to try to get this golf shaft in, and it's still not in. And so now we're here in October. I mean, grips for golf clubs have been back ordered all summer. So it's a continuing trend.
Yeah, they're probably sitting offshore somewhere, right?
Sitting on one of those containers
Yeah,
out there.
yeah, just sitting there waiting to come in. So yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, if you're in business of any type where you're bringing in product, supply chains affecting you and going to affect you, then obviously has a massive domino effect. Businesses like mine that work with other businesses, if those businesses can't, do what they need to do and stay in business and, keep their revenues coming in, businesses like mine that provide services to other businesses are going to be affected. So,
Yep.
this is something we're all going to feel, but yeah, definitely seeing it both in real data and anecdotally in my own life.
Well, it's good to be talking to you again after a month. I think the purpose that we're going to go for today is talk water bottles, whether the BrüMate or Swell or Ice Shaker or Orca or I got a blender bottle. I got plenty of bottles sitting next to me. I'll do a little show and tell in a minute here. But I think that's our goal is have a conversation about these tumblers. I know I wrote a story, or I wrote an article breaking down BrüMate in context, looking at Swell, and we decided we'd go down this path. So I don't know, what's your first takeaway with the tumblers, with this industry, this market, these products? What's your frame of reference here?
Yeah, so this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I have an obsession problem with water bottles and tumblers literally on my desk right now, not prepped for this at all. I have a Swell water bottle. I've had the founder of Swell on my podcast is a bit of disclosure. So I have some, some nature there. I've been long on a search for the perfect coffee mug. Right now, for me, it is a Snow Peak tumbler, but that because I like Snow Peak, it makes me feel sort of Japanese, sort of cool, sort of outdoorsy.
Is there anything special about the Snow Peak, or is it the branding that gives you that feeling?
I mean, there is some design to it that I really like, but no, I mean, it doesn't keep things hot the longest. It's nothing unique, but I like it's a real clean design, and it's just stuck with me, and I like it. And then over the last, I guess, 2 summers, as you know, I spend my summers in Michigan, and koozies and tumblers are a big accessory. And so I've been very much on the search for the perfect koozie. I've looked at things like a competitor that I don't know if we're going to talk about today called Frost Buddy. Their kind of killer app is that they have a universal can holder.
I think I
BrüMate,
saw that, or I saw
yeah.
something similar to that.
Yeah, so if you're switching between seltzers and beers and things like that. And then BrüMate, I'm very familiar with, and I own a few of their products. I think one of the things that we might get into that I think is really interesting is how, they've taken, they're just koozies, right? They're coolers for your can, but they have taken this a little bit of a do more with a single product, and also using them as a tumbler. So they sell them with lids.
Yep.
And I've never really used mine as a tumbler, but yes, so that's my experience I've been a consumer, a customer. I know the space, and we can talk about it and what's going on. I think it's a super competitive space.
Absolutely. So the four companies that I've been tracking, that I have some analytics on, and our conversation doesn't need to be closed just to these four, but just to give a frame of reference: blender bottle, Swell, BrüMate, and Ice Shaker.
And
The Swell is
blender
obviously
bottle is just the plastic bottle with the ball in it, right?
the blender.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one here, so it's like the protein shakes that you may have at the gym.
I've got many of those. Yep.
Yeah. The average price point on this one is like $25. It is plastic. I actually bought a bunch of them kind of just to feel the different feel of them. The other one that's interesting, that's similar, is the Ice Shaker. So this one here, this one has a nice metal feel to it. It's similar functionality to the blender bottle. This is created by Chris Gronkowski, which is Rob Gronkowski's brother. Obviously, Rob Gronkowski used to play for my favorite football team, the New England Patriots, now plays for Tampa Bay, as we have disbanded here. But he launched this after his pro career, launched on Shark Tank, and seems to be seemingly somewhat popular. So then we Swell, and then BrüMate. So to give the context on,
I'm sorry, what's the price point on that one?
So Ice Shaker, I have $45 about. Swell, I have about $35, and BrüMate around $40. So they're all in the $25 to $45 range, sub $50 products. My guess is that most of these are made for around $2 to $3, based on what I can tell. Maybe as you get the metal ones, maybe it's a little bit more, but from what I can see, it's probably about $2 to $3 that these are made for. So by far, for direct consumer sales, BrüMate is blowing everyone away in sheer volume. They're averaging around 2,500 orders a day, followed up by Swell, which Swell we know is a $100 million company. We also know BrüMate's a $100 million company. So Swell's in second here, I see, with 950 orders per day. Blender bottle comes in third with 300 orders per day, and ice shaker lasts at 100 orders per day. I think this is just one sales channel. I think we'll get into the conversation on the different sales channels that go along with it. So I can't track all sales channel, but this is for at least for the direct to consumer line. And then we have others. I mean, I have Orca sitting next to me. I have one that when I was out in Hilton Head, I picked this up over at I don't know, Kroger's, and this was like a $12 bottle that we used so we could have a couple drinks on the beach. So I mean, there's endless amounts of these bottles in companies. So there's really to these bottles, they're probably not too much different. I mean, also the other one we're not talking about right now is Yeti. They're an elephant in the room as well, but I don't have analytics on that. So I don't have an overall point. I just want to give kind of like a baseline here on what I'm seeing. BrüMate by far is blowing everyone out of the water. From your perspective, the branding side of it, does that make sense to you looking at this? Do you think that maybe, like, I know Swell has a big wholesale channel that I can't follow, but I think BrüMate has that similar. I know Ice Shaker, they have a big customization product. So the promo product industry, corporate gifts, they're big there. So those numbers I gave you, what's your first reaction?
I'm actually shocked, to be honest. I mean, to me, BrüMate on the surface has the least distinct brand. You know, like I look at these different brands. I'm familiar with Swell. Her whole purpose was, you know, she went on a trip and saw a bunch of plastic in I think it was the Amazon or something to the equivalent of that. It was like, I'm gonna clean this up. But then also, when the founder came out with the water bottle, no one was doing anything that was like really like stylistic and design oriented, and so that was really her positioning. Plus, they're a B Corp, you know, and they really live into that, and so that's been their position, and that's what they've been. That's where they've been. When I look at Blender bottle, I mean, they definitely have this workout, and I've always thought of them as sort of a utilitarian. I don't even really think of them as a brand. I own a bunch of their stuff, but I look and it has a very sort of athletic yet feminine, you know, perspective, and I get that. And then when you look at Ice Shaker, I mean, they really have that athlete kind of thing going on, right? And definitely coming with the Gronkowski brothers and things like that, like that's different. And then BrüMate, you know, it's kind of like it's a funny brand to me. So I'm a big fan. I love their product, and I'll tell you why. Like you talked about Yeti. Like I don't really like can coolers where you've got to like take off the top. You know, I know it sounds silly, but you take off the top or whatever. And theirs, you just slip in. And plus, they have a really cool form factor. They've kind of fitted it to your hand and stuff like that. What I think is cool about BrüMate is they've definitely, you know, their purpose, if I remember, is something around like no drink she'll not be cold or something, right? And they're really on a like, and so it's fun, and they're really on a purpose and mission to enhance your cocktails, right? And they're very clear about that, and that they're a fun brand. They do some really cool designs, but like the name is weird to me, right? Like if I were, you know, this is just kind of goes into like the oddity of branding, like it's distinct, but it's weird, and it has umlauts. And
when someone first sent that to me, I was like, all right, where's this brand located? And immediately I thought outside the United States, foreign, but I was told it was a big company. So I was like, all right, I'll take a look into it. But I mean, it's definitely US oriented.
Totally.
And so that umlaut got me.
Yeah. Like this brand BrüMate, like one I mentioned earlier, Frost Buddy, both started by young men. So like in their like early 20s, which I think is just kind of interesting. But BrüMate, also the name's not very extendable, right? It's like brew. It's about beer, you know, like it's and then also I find the mark to be just kind of weird. And you know, it's like a wine glass, but it's called BrüMate. Like, so all that being said, you know, this just goes to show you never know, right? Like they're building a brand around this. It's working for them. It's not like I'd come in and say like redo this. But like if we were building it from scratch, I'd be like, oh, I don't quite get this.
But they have some uniqueness to their product. I'm not an expert in this space, but it seems like I haven't seen everything. I think some people are copying them now, but I think they have some uniqueness, or they're first to market in some of these products. like the wine champagne tumbler that they have. That's a kind of a cool little product. The can cooler thing, I know like Yeti, you talked to was it Frostmate? I'm sorry, I forget the name of
Frost
that
Buddy.
Frost Buddy. It has that now, but I think they maybe were first to market or very early on in the market on some of these new unique products of keeping drinks cool.
Totally. And I think they have a pretty extendable product line, so like if you like one of their tumblers and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I need a can cooler, they've got it, or a coffee mug or whatever. They have that cool like backpack cooler, right? And with the spigot on it. And what that tells me and what that communicates to me is, hey, like this brand's all about fun and about partying and about socializing, right? And that really is their tone. Like when you order stuff from them, they're like, hey, get ready, it's coming, and they kind of do that really great onboarding communication and get you excited about it. They have fun colors. And it's crazy, but I do think that they probably also have, outside of their brand, just a really robust, strong e-commerce machine, right? And they are doing it really, really well. And I'm sure you can speak to that a little bit better. I mean, what are you seeing from just a pure e-commerce advertising and acquisition?
So on the advertising, I mean, they're taking the brand and they're putting it out there in a very similar way that you were just talking about. I mean, the onboarding that you see that in their Facebook ads, you see that on the Instagram posts. The other stat I was taking a look at was the size of the Instagram followers for all these. It's just, to me, that's a little bit of a signal on the type of brand that they're building. Someone choosing to follow a brand kind of gives a little bit of a signal on how much they like that brand. Not always they could trick them into to follow them for different reasons, but BrüMate again is by far the largest Instagram presence out of these four. They have 423,000 followers. Swell has 272,000 followers. Blender Bottle has 124,000, which to me, you said it was like utilitarian. Is that the word you used about?
I did, yeah.
Blender Bottle. So like, I kind of view them as like a blend. Like the product has purpose, but I don't really see. I haven't felt the brand around Blender Bottle. I'm also not someone that works out. I don't use a shaker bottle. I'm not a gin rat. And Ice Shaker is growing. They're at 74,000. That one's interesting. Just because Chris Gronkowski, he mainly drives a lot of that social media presence himself. So that company is closely wrapped into his name. He has spoken about not wanting it to be the Gronkowski brand. So he's only let his brothers be part of it every now and then. But he's often on social media talking about it and building how he's built the business. And being a former NFL player himself, he started with a small, like I think he had like 30,000 followers on Instagram or Twitter before he launched the product. So yeah, BrüMate clearly like checks all the boxes. They're doing everything correct. They got the follow-up emails. They got the multiple emails, marketing emails that's not even post-purchase, but they're monthly or weekly emails that are coming out to you. I think Swell's right there too. I am surprised at the difference. Both are known to be $100 million business. It appears that BrüMate has more of their 100 million under e-commerce than Swell does. So Swell obviously is in bookstores and probably does a little bit more of that wholesale business. BrüMate has that wholesale business, but I definitely would say BrüMate has e-commerce perfected or done better than Swell or the other companies that we've seen here.
Yeah, and I do know a little bit about that, and I would agree. I mean, BrüMate is direct to consumer. I don't even know if they sell in any stores or anything like that. The whole Swell model.
I think they do now. He started with Trend sent out an article giving a breakdown of their business, and that's when I followed up with mine. He started with direct consumer, and then I think he got to $20 million in sales, and then he's like revamped it, and he's like, all right, we gotta look at wholesale and Amazon and other channels as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I know Swell started the opposite, right? Swell started in specialty stores. Sarah Kraus, the founder, went door to door. I forget, she said on my podcast, but I forget, but I'm probably gonna, something like the MoMA store and boutiques. And like that was, and that really, when you think about the difference, right? Like, her brand really is kind of rooted in this specialty boutique kind of feel. It has like an upscale feel, right? And BrüMate, I think, is, and this isn't to like, I want to say this right, because I don't want to like insult the brand. I think they're more brand of the people, right? And they're more like an every person brand, and they really are like, hey, we're here for the party. Where I think, you look at Swell, and they're like, hey, we're here to be a part of the office and your everyday life, and we're kind of like your companion. They're not really like, hey, we're here to party with you. And so I think it's a good position that BrüMate takes. It's fun.
So you said something there that kind of clicked something in my head. Swell starting more on specialty stores, BrüMate starting online, direct to consumer. Now, in the context of building a brand, I think it's got to be incredibly more tough to get your branding known when you start not DTC. To me, it's almost like when you start a brand, the first step is probably DTC, get that brand name, and then get the wholesalers interested because of that name that you have, that you built. And I feel like Swell started a different way, and maybe you have a better context than me in this. Brand building that's not through DTC versus brand building through DTC, I would say, I would assume that it's easier to build a brand name DTC first.
Yes and no. So my opinion on this is like, right, it's changed. And certainly when Sarah started Swell, probably retailers had a bigger relevance in our lives, right? Like this is like what, in the last 4 years? I mean, it's been happening and shifting, but in the last 4 years, I would say like retail has like hit this major cliff or inflection point, whatever you want to call it, depending on your perspective. And certainly we procure so much of our goods and services online. We buy so many goods from Amazon, but the role of the retailer is changing, and where that's going is there's always going to be this place for retail in specialty, right? And so specialty outdoor products, specialty homeware, whatever, like there is going to there's a place for it, and it doesn't live like it used to where it was the only place to go. You're going to have a hybrid model. But I do think if you want to hit that specialty market, if you're trying to maybe hit a different type of upscale or niche market, and build a brand slow, but with clear foundation of who you're targeting, then retail is a great way to go. And that's a different and a way to go. I think you can test a lot online. I think there's a lot of cool things you can do with DTC. And you would have to look at the marketing plan and the strategy of what you're trying to do. But a lot of times you can start in that specialty space and build influencers, build a name, and then start to go out wide.
So for instance, like, how do you tell that story though? Because now your consumer, your customer is the retailer that's purchasing it, that's going to put it on their shelves. So how are they going about telling their story? To me, I mean, are you at a trade show and you have your booth set up and that's how you're telling the story and getting, because if you just show up to a retailer and say, hey, I have this ball, it's like, great, who are you? I don't know anything about you. But the way my brain works is get that audience built online and they go, oh, I've heard of you already. I want your bottle in my store. So going retail first, how do you tell that story to the first customer, the retailer?
Yeah. And again, I think it's specific to specialty retail, right? I mean, if you're like thinking of Target and stuff like that,
Of course, no.
Target's going to want to know, like, how do we get the volume and how do we tell that story? But in specialty retail, I mean, you got to remember they're faced with a really huge problem too. How do they stay relevant? How are they interesting? So they're on the lookout for cool, if they're a specialty retailer, they're on the lookout for cool product. I mean, that's part of their value prop, right? And they're looking for opportunities to collab, co-brand, and so and to sell cool product. So part of it is like stepping in, like Sarah did. You can go door to door and literally be like, hey, I've got this water bottle. You can call on them, and they're looking for awesome stuff. You have to tell that story. It has to fit into their story of what they're trying to offer and who their customer is. But and then there's even some specialty retailers that have taken that totally online, like Huckberry, comes to mind. They've completely taken that specialty curated retailer role and brought it 100% online, but they're doing things where they do unique collabs and you can only buy it at a Huckberry and things like that in order to add value. So I think that, you really need to think about it. I think it works better in upscale goods, right? Luxury goods. I think it's hard to sell premium product DTC sometimes. And you build momentum, and you can build excitement and influencers. I mean, I know there's a good friend of mine, a gentleman by the name of Marty Kerrigan. That's his whole business model. His business is called Global Sales Guys, but he is a liaison between specialty retail and outdoor. And he's got such a great brand, but I think it's like brand state, like he says, like specialty goods for specialty stores or something, where, and he's going, door to door, building those relationships, because there is a relationship between the consumer and those local retail outlets for specialty goods. And so he's not just selling, and brokering like, hey, you can buy whatever off the rack ski. These are cool, like, you know, cool kind of niche ski brands and jacket brands and different type of product. I mean, e-foil boards, things like that, right? And those are products that are like 10 grand. Like someone's not going to typically just throw down on that without, having someone behind it that can back it and things like that. But I digress. We're talking about water bottles here and things like that. And at the time, we have to remember that when Sarah started her brand, to spend $30-$40 on a water bottle was unheard of.
Yeah, because
Right?
that's what
Like,
I mean. I got this one still today. This one that I got at Kroger's, it's like 10, 12 bucks, and
yeah,
it works
yeah,
decently enough.
yeah. And she was early to that double wall kind of model of metal and design, and people just weren't. I mean, that was a big deal to step out and buy like a sort of a luxury water bottle. And I think that
I really like the design of it. It
yeah,
just has a cool feel to it, a cool look. I don't know. I think she obviously, clearly, she's done a great job with the design of it. So I agree that the design has been awesome.
it definitely feels premium, right? And to kind of wrap up this little segment, that's, I think, why she chose to go to specialty stores at that time. It was seen as a premium product. Right now, if she were to release it today, would that be the right strategy? To your point, probably not, because consumers are more like, oh, okay, I'll spend 30 bucks on a water bottle or a tumbler or whatever. We've just kind of changed. But so I think it really depends on the product and where you are. If you're the first to market or very early in the market and you are a premium product, you need to build up, I think, through more of a specialty retailer channel. And of course, you're going to have an online presence. But I think if you're hitting people with Facebook ads and you're like say we have a new $200 water bottle, and I'm like hitting you with the Facebook for my guess is we're not going to get a lot of people converting on a $200 water bottle until we build some momentum and really prove the market.
Yeah. And so the next point I want to topic I want to touch upon is the corporate gifting and the customization side of this business. Kind of a little bit close to my heart. My first job out of college, I was the controller for a promotional products company that were, sell anything you put a brand on, they were selling it, and we sold tons of tumblers. But the benefit that I see that these brands have is that people want it. So if you're going to go in like a corporate gift and you're going to get a Swell water bottle with the corporate logo on it, that's something that's cool and unique, and they want to hold on to. So I think building up that desire that, hey, that's a bottle that I do want, because they can go get a tumbler anywhere and put a corporate name on it. But when it comes on a Swell bottle, I think it gives it that much more because of the effort that they did with the branding. Like, for instance, this is the Orca bottle, and that's the Barstool Classic logo on it. They give it out. I play in their golf event, and they give it out. And it's, again, I'm not big into these, but it's better than getting a non-branded one. This is, as I said, the Orca. So there's a huge market, and they've spoken about it, being able to now sell these as giant corporate gifts, doing a 100,000 unit order, going to Google or going to Facebook or whatever it may be. So to me, I think there's huge value once you're able to build that brand. It opens up the other channels now that you're now in demand on those channels.
Right. And then hopefully you are also giving uplift to the brand that's gifting you. So, as an example, I'm really passionate about this topic because I go to a lot of conferences and I go to a lot of events, and I always get a swag bag, and it makes me so upset when I open it up and it's a bunch of cheap plastic, or it's like, a $2, like literally like $1 metal tumbler. And I'm like, this is junk. Right. And I don't want to take it. A couple things are happening there, right? Like I feel bad, I feel angry, and I a lot of times I throw that stuff away and I feel bad about that. And those negative feelings start to transfer and transmute to the event, to the brand of the event. And
Yeah.
so I'll give you a real example. Like I was at a conference and they kept talking about how they were premium. They only played with winners, and they did this and this and this. And then I had a water bottle that was plastic and it was like leaking and everything. And I was like, this is a disconnect, right? Like this is like you telling me like how premium you are, and I've got this junky plastic water bottle. And I was like, and literally in my mind, I was like, there was distrust. Like I was like, this doesn't correlate. And so I do think that, like, for brands, and you talked about some really big ones like Google and Facebook and things like that, that are committed to sustainability, that are committed to, not buying junk product, not giving people things that are going to go into the landfill. Like, then you have to start to think about, okay, well, when I purchase a water bottle for an event, what brands align with that mission? Which brands are about that? What won't people throw away? What will show up on the desk Monday at work? And so all these kinds of things happen. And when you build up a brand, and you're able to do that, that brand has, these properties and gifting too, that you're uplifting either the Barstool Sports brand or someone, by giving a good product as well when it comes to corporate gifting. And so I think people have to be really
Absolutely.
careful about corporate gifting and the stuff they give. I think, you probably saw it when people just start badging whatever and giving crap out. Like that can have you think you're doing a good thing, that could have a negative effect.
Yeah, it comes with, as you said, a negative connotation with the event that you're part of, with the brand that gave it to you. It's very. Oh no, I lost my camera for a second. Hopefully, can you still hear me, Mark?
I can hear you. You're frozen in a perfectly confused looking
Yeah,
creature.
it's going to be that way for a second. My camera, it'll come back in a second, hopefully. Um, but yeah, so I mean, I spent, I don't know, 4 years in that promotional products company, and I saw the whole gamut of products that the consumers wanted and they didn't want. And it was like, if you could do a Vineyard Vines product versus like your Gildan polo, um, it left a better impression. It might cost more, but it was worth putting that money into it. And I think that's what these brands have done here, is that they've made a quality product. I mean, I don't like I don't mean to bash them. I don't think the blender bottle is that quality. It's a plastic bottle. That's not something I would like the feel of. But I do like the ice shake. This feels nice. I really like it. It seems like a quality product there. So by creating that quality products, it allows them to have that higher price point and then go to that promo, customization, corporate gifting side of it. And it's big numbers for them that I've seen. I mean, even when I was running the accounting for it, I've seen it on the reverse side of who's buying what and how much. They're big orders that come through, and I mean hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars type of orders, and so that can blow you out. I mean, a completely different product, but the city bonfire. I don't know if you've read some of the articles I wrote about that. The guys out of I think Maryland, and it's just a small can. I have one upstairs. It's a small can that's like a giant candle, but it's like you put it on your table. It's a portable bonfire, is what they call it. But their biggest channel, they got Google and they got Facebook to put their stickers on top of that can, and they immediately jumped to a multi-million-dollar business and revenue because of that. They weren't going to do multi-million direct to consumer on that product as quickly as they did. Now they're doing pretty good, but the promotional product channel is definitely going to be one of the higher revenue drivers for them. So I just want to touch upon that topic.
Well, and I think if we look for where the puck is going, not where it's been, to quote Wayne Gretzky. Look, people have cut in office for like conceivably into 2022. They've cut a lot of travel for these big corporations, right? So they're faced with a really big problem. How do we make people feel like they're a part of the company? How do we make people feel like they're a part of the team? How do we make people feel like they're a part of the culture? And here's a real opportunity in all this corporate gifting. And how do we make it unique? And how do we make it special? You know, we might have talked about this before, but we give as a point, like when we have a big client, we always thank them for coming on as a new client, and we give them a gift. And that gift has nothing to do with our business, in the sense of like, it does not have our logo on it. It does not have our name on it. And we give, you know, a lot of times we'll give a chef knife or something like that. And it'll say
That's an awesome touch. I love that.
right. And it'll say, hey, Corey, engraved on the knife says, this is handcrafted for Corey. This tool is handcrafted for Corey Turner. And then I'll come with a cheeky card that says something to the effect like, Corey, thank you for carving out a spot on your team with us. We're looking forward to working with you, right? Why do we do that? Because I know that knife, people love them. I get pictures all the time, like on Saturday night from clients, like them chefing in the kitchen with it. They're going to use it because it doesn't have my logo on it. And while my name and brand isn't on it, my name and brand is infused in it, and they know who it's from.
They know who gave it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm getting multiple impressions every night at dinner when they use it.
Where'd you come up with that concept? Because that's awesome. So how did that start? Where did you
I
get
think
the idea
I
to do
picked
that?
it up. I learned it from someone else somewhere, like at a long time ago, about corporate gifting. And I was turned on to a book called Giftology. And this is a great entrepreneur story. Giftology was written by a guy that I've met since, named John Rulin. And John was a Cutco rep as a young guy, and he was trying to sell a lot of knives. And he came up with this idea, like, why don't people give them as corporate gifts? And he started to develop that. Now he's got this book called Giftology. He's still, I think, like the #1 Cutco rep. That's a Cutco knife that I send typically to people. But now he has other products like cork skulls and all this stuff. And I also have a rep at his company. And so I can easily be like, hey, I think Christy, boo, 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 boo. Corey came on, and we have a template email now. Corey came on as a client. You know, his wife's name is so-and-so. And because sometimes we'll do like handcrafted to Corey and your wife's name or whatever. Or I don't know who his partner is, and she'll go and do some sleuthing on Facebook or whatever. But anyways, and we have templated cards that go out to different people depending on the gift. And we make it really easy. And again, that's just a way that we build. When you think of a customer journey, like how do you wow people off after the sale? That's one thing for us. Like, how do we stay relevant? How do we, as a branding agency, stay in front of our clients so they remember us and know that they're appreciated and valued? And that's just,
Yeah, I mean, it's an old sales tactic a little bit, but you do it post sale, and so it's almost like a retention tool as well. I mean, it just, if anything's happening, like, oh man, things aren't going good, maybe we got to cut Mark. It's like, well, he gave us that gift. We don't want to cut him. He's a great guy.
it's also genuine. We want people to know that we appreciate them, and we understand that when they take that leap in contract with us, it's like a big deal, right? And we appreciate it. We want to let them know. And you know, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much money, and it goes a really, really long way.
Just a nice gesture. That's awesome. I love that story. So my last question, I guess, for these water bottles, it seems to be a very saturated space. Do you think that there is any opportunity for like a new brand to come in and compete? Any unique angles or anything, or do you think this has kind of hit a point of saturation and would not be worth the effort to try to launch another bottle to this industry?
I think there's always room for something, right, in every category. Now, the question is, we would have to map it and we would have to look for the white space. But you look at these different brands, and, you know, I look at BrüMate. They're the brand that likes to party and they're about having a good time. I look at Swell and it's high-end design. You look at Ice Shaker, it's like this metal sort of athlete bottle. And then you look at Blender Bottle, and they really are I think that they're kind of the Band-Aid, right, of blending bottles. They were the first to kind of have this thing. Again, I don't connect with the brand, but maybe a lot of people do and associate it with quality. So, like, you know, I'm assuming Ice Shaker is the newest brand of these four, and there is room for them to enter. And I think that there's always, as long as you come in with a niche and a perspective that people are interested in, there's always going to be room for new entrants. Do I know what that is today? No, we'd have to probably brainstorm and think about that. But maybe there's a bottle specifically for boomers, right? Maybe there's, maybe BrüMate's gonna age a little bit, and the next generation is gonna be like, those aren't cool. I want some, I want something else. And so, oh, there's always room for this. And part of this, I think, is happening is what we're seeing, at least in the BrüMate space, is there was this weird influx of variety of beverages available, right? Like in the last 15 years, we've gotten, the craft beer market exploded. Now you can't get a normal beer anymore. Then the
Can sizes are different.
Exactly. And then the seltzers came out, and
Correct.
people are doing all sorts of things to differentiate, shelf space and get your attention because of can size. Like, beers don't even all have the can size. And then there's seltzers, skinny can, tall can, there's bombers. And so like this type of stuff is also fueling the interest in products like BrüMate. And so I think that as the world turns, as they say, and develops, and different trends happen, then there's going to be opportunities to capitalize on that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It seems tough. You just can't just launch another bottle and try to put it on Amazon. I don't think you can just copy BrüMate. I think you do have to differentiate or find that audience that's slightly different to be able to build that audience and sell to them. But I do generally agree with you here that there probably is opportunity, even though it seems so saturated.
You just have to have new perspective. I'm pretty sure when Sarah Krause started Swell, everyone was like, we don't need a new water bottle. We've got Nalgene bottles. We've got water bottles. We got the old fashioned Gatorade kind that leak everywhere. We don't need water bottles. We got this figured out. But
And that was 11 years ago.
Yeah. Not that long ago, right?
Not that long ago. I mean, yes and no. Still there's new bottles coming out today. So
yeah.
While she started 11 years ago, hey, we don't need another one. Look how many more brands launched. I don't know when Yeti launched, but I think Yeti is probably a little bit younger than Swell. I think BrüMate's definitely a little bit younger as well. So they have launched, even though the opinion back then, hey, we don't need another bottle, they're still launching today.
Yeah, so it's all about perspective. And I think that what I usually see in these brands is they built the product that didn't exist for them. There wasn't a water bottle that Sarah saw like, hey, that's cool. I can take that to like a cool, like New York office and it like fit in with my life. Right. And that was, and she had this mission about plastic. The founder of BrüMate is probably like, look, there's just not like a cool, these foam koozies, like it's just not working for me. And there's just not a cool brand here. Right. And then and the Frost Buddy guys, I know we're not really talking about them. I just love them because there are a couple of students from Indiana University, and they're like, look, I'm tired of having multiple devices to cool my beverage. And they like came up with this like kind of universal cooler. Right. So like, as long as there's this like unmet need, and it doesn't always have to be good. It could be fashion, it could be price, it could be style, it could be function. There's a lot of different ways to identify unmet needs. There's always room for new entrants, right?
And I think definitely like purpose. I think Swell has that purpose. So if you put a Swell water bottle on your desk at work, it's saying you're making a statement about yourself as well, that you agree with the purpose that Swell has.
100%.
I think that's all I got for the bottles. Any other?
No, I mean, like when I woke up today, I didn't think I'd be going so deep into bottles, and it's always a pleasure, right? Like
it's really fun to deep dive. You don't know where it goes. You go down a rabbit hole, and you don't know where you're going to come out.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting to think, right? All these brands have a position, they have a place. Blender, they are for that shake drinker, that person who's drinking protein shakes and who's working out. And I really do think of them like, I think when I've acquired all of them that I have, they've either been with some sort of protein shake product, or they've been like given to me like at the gym, right? I really associate them with like, that's the point of entry at the gym, and maybe kind of getting back to our retail specialty, right? That's another form of retail specialty. Like, hey, if you, are selling through the gyms and you're like at Lifetime Fitness or whatever, and as they onboard, they're handing you a blender bottle and a packet of protein powder and trying to like get you on the straight and narrow. That's adding to the brand. Like, hey, this is valid, right? This is like legitimate. They're like part of my gym. And so, BrüMate, again, I just really see them as like, hey, we're here for the good times. They want to make sure. And you look at their social feed, it's all about being social and being fun and being at weddings and being out on boats and things like that.
Yeah.
And then Ice Shaker, that just seems, to your point, I don't really know if their manufacturing process is better than Blender. I don't know if it's actually a better bottle than Blender, but my perception is that it's higher quality, right? That it's a nicer product, and that it's a better product.
And that's the story Chris has told, is he tells the steps he went to, the problem he was trying to solve. He made sure it didn't drip, but it always stayed cold, and it was a little better of your typical your baseline blender bottle that was at the gym already. And so Chris tells that story often when talking about his company, and that's how he sells it and positions it.
Yeah, so he's really clear on that and where they fit, and so as long as you can find that position, find your people, find the problem you think you're solving, and and it becomes really clear in the marketplace if you're solving a problem that people really have or one that you think they have. And the people will speak with their choice to purchase and fill the need that they have.
Yeah. All right, Mark, this was awesome. We'll pick the next victim or the next industry, and we'll do it again soon.
Until next time.
Thanks, Mark.